Imagine you're standing silently by a lakeside, burdened by secrets you've hidden deep within your heart. Suddenly, a dog approaches, his quiet eyes piercing yours with gentle recognition, unlocking memories you swore you'd buried forever. Would you have the courage to face the truth he brings? If you're moved by stories of reunion, healing, and the quiet bravery of animals, gently press, subscribe, share, and like. And join us in discovering moments powerful enough to change our hearts forever. Luke Bennett sat quietly on a weather-worn wooden bench near the edge of Lake Eagle, watching as morning sunlight danced across the calm water, breaking gently into soft ripples that shimmered like scattered diamonds. At 45, Luke still carried the rugged demeanor of a man who had once led others through the merciless sands of Iraq, his broad shoulders and lean, muscular build filling out the faded military jacket he wore. His short, dark hair, touched lightly by gray at the temples, framed a face defined by a strong jawline and deep-set eyes, a gentle yet cautious gaze shadowed by memories of things he wished to forget. It had been years since he'd left the Marines, trading combat boots for a private investigator's life in the quiet, wooded peace of Hayward, Wisconsin. Yet here he was, miles away in Eagle River, a secluded town in Michigan's northern wilderness, searching for 15-year-old Alex Whitaker, a local teen who'd vanished without a trace. Luke's silent presence and watchful eyes had quickly drawn wary glances from the townspeople, who had grown protective and suspicious after several similar disappearances had shaken their peaceful community. From the small antique shop across the street, Margaret Jennings carefully observed the stranger by the lakeside. At 72, Margaret carried herself with quiet authority and vigilance, her silver-white hair pulled neatly back, exposing sharp blue eyes that had seen generations pass through Eagle River. Widowed early, Margaret had turned the store into her refuge, a place filled with memories and reminders of happier days. Yet, lately, anxiety had made a home in her heart, fueled by the fear that the serenity of their town had been compromised by unseen dangers. Margaret's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the antique rotary phone behind the counter, dialing a number she'd memorized weeks ago. Her voice was steady but urgent as she spoke to the agent on the other end, explaining the strange man's arrival, his constant watching, and his unsettling silence. She didn't know if he was involved, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right about Luke Bennett. Meanwhile, Luke's thoughts drifted back to the reason he'd taken this case, another worried mother, tears brimming in tired eyes, pleading with him to find her child, reminding him of losses he'd witnessed before, some he'd been unable to prevent. He gently fingered a worn photograph in his pocket, a picture of Alex smiling innocently beneath a baseball cap too big for his head, and felt a familiar pang of determination mixed with sorrow. The tranquil quiet was broken by the soft crunch of gravel, signaling someone's approach. Luke turned slightly, noticing Sheriff Dan Walker moving toward him. Walker, a middle-aged man of 55, tall and sturdy with short salt and pepper hair beneath his sheriff's hat, projected calm authority tempered by years spent maintaining peace in Eagle River. Sheriff Walker stopped a short distance away, hands casually resting near his utility belt, but his eyes cautiously studying Luke's face. "Good morning, sir," Walker said slowly, in a careful, neutral tone. "Mind if I ask what brings you to our town? Folks around here are a bit uneasy with new faces lately." Luke met the sheriff's gaze evenly, respectful but guarded. He reached slowly into his pocket, pulling out his identification. "Luke Bennett," he replied, handing over the worn badge of his PI license. "Private investigator from Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm looking for Alex Whitaker." Walker studied the badge carefully, then returned it with a slight nod, though his skepticism lingered in his eyes. "Wish you'd come by the station first, Mr. Bennett," the sheriff remarked, glancing briefly toward Margaret's shop. "People are anxious. They've seen enough strangers come and go, usually bringing trouble." Luke nodded, understanding the weight of fear resting over the town. "I meant no trouble," he assured quietly, sincerity softening the deep timbre of his voice. "Just trying to find the boy." Sheriff Walker gave a final, thoughtful look before turning away. "Just tread carefully, Luke," he advised gently. "Folks here mean well, but fear can cloud judgment." Luke remained seated long after the sheriff left, his thoughts heavy as he watched distant trees whispering secrets to the passing breeze. He wondered briefly if he'd ever truly escaped his past, or if every lost soul he sought was somehow a shadow of those he'd failed to save before. Across the street, Margaret Jennings watched carefully from her window, heart still uneasy but softened by the quiet sincerity she'd glimpsed in the stranger's brief interaction with the sheriff. Yet even with softened doubts, the call had been made. The FBI was already on its way, bringing with it consequences she could not yet imagine, tied to a past Luke Bennett thought he had long left buried beneath foreign sands. Luke remained silently seated by the lakeside as the sun climbed higher, warming the wooden bench beneath him. The air seemed heavier, charged with a tension that he knew too well, a subtle pressure he had carried countless times before. His quiet reverie was interrupted by the distant rumble of approaching vehicles, breaking the tranquil hush of Eagle River's mid-morning. From a convoy of black SUVs marked FBI, Special Agent Emily Carter stepped forward with authority and purpose. At 42, Emily was tall and poised, with shoulder-length auburn hair neatly tied back and sharp green eyes that rarely missed a detail. Her demeanor projected a quiet confidence built from nearly 2 decades of federal service. She quickly assessed the small crowd of townspeople who had gathered curiously, then turned her attention to Luke Bennett. Emily approached him cautiously but professionally, her FBI vest crisp, her expression composed. Accompanying her was Special Agent Ryan Mitchell, a younger agent in his early 30s with short blonde hair and an eager, watchful gaze. He held tightly to the leash of a strong German shepherd named Scout, who walked attentively at his side. Scout was a powerful dog, a purebred German shepherd about 5 years old, with deep black fur blending beautifully into rich shades of tan and sable. His intelligent brown eyes seemed unusually perceptive, alert but gentle, revealing a temperament marked by loyalty, bravery, and quiet affection. He moved calmly, yet his presence was commanding, clearly trained for demanding situations but tempered by a gentle nature underneath. As the agent stopped a short distance away, Luke's attention immediately shifted from Emily's questions to the dog at Ryan's side. Something in the German shepherd's bearing stirred a deep, painful familiarity in Luke's heart, an emotion he'd buried beneath layers of grief and time. His pulse quickened, his breath catching subtly in his throat. Special Agent Carter began calmly, asking Luke standard questions about his presence and activities in Eagle River. Yet Luke found it difficult to concentrate fully, his eyes constantly returning to Scout, whose gaze now appeared fixed intently on him. The dog had abruptly stopped, pulling slightly on the leash, his posture stiffening noticeably. Scout's eyes widened slightly, ears tilting backward as if caught in a silent, profound shock of recognition. Ryan tugged gently on the leash, puzzled by the dog's sudden hesitation. Yet Scout remained still, his gaze locked onto Luke's face, softening slowly into an expression of unmistakable recognition and longing. Without warning, Scout emitted a soft, trembling whimper, the sound carrying clearly in the hushed air around them. Luke felt his chest tighten painfully, his vision blurring momentarily. Memories flooded his mind, vibrant and painful, from the arid battlefields of Iraq, where a similar German shepherd had once stood faithfully at his side. That dog had been Scout, his closest companion in the harshest of circumstances, presumed lost forever during a brutal ambush years before. Overwhelmed by emotions he could no longer suppress, Luke slowly knelt to the ground, extending a hand carefully towards Scout. The German shepherd stepped forward cautiously at first, then with sudden certainty pressed his head firmly into Luke's open palm. Scout's entire body trembled slightly, his tail swishing slowly, joy and relief blending seamlessly in the silent reunion between the 2 lost comrades. Agent Carter and Ryan exchanged surprised, questioning looks, momentarily uncertain how to proceed. Ryan loosened his grip instinctively, sensing the depth of the connection unfolding before them. Emily watched silently, her professionalism softening into curiosity and quiet respect, intuitively recognizing the significance of the moment. Nearby, the gathered townspeople, including Margaret Jennings and Sheriff Dan Walker, watched in respectful silence, their suspicions giving way to gentle awe and wonder at the evident bond between the man they had feared and the dog they admired. Margaret's expression softened visibly, a gentle hand covering her heart, realizing how quickly assumptions could change when truths were revealed. Scout sat close beside Luke now, body pressed reassuringly against him, the familiar warmth, a soothing balm to years of hidden pain. Luke gently caressed Scout's thick fur, feeling a long-forgotten sense of peace and companionship return, quietly grateful for this miracle he never imagined possible. Special Agent Carter eventually approached Luke once more, her voice softer, filled now with understanding rather than interrogation. "Seems there's more to this than we first thought," she acknowledged quietly, studying the unlikely pair. Luke nodded slowly, unable yet to speak, the weight of emotion still heavy in his throat, his eyes glistening slightly in the morning sunlight. The gentle lake breeze carried away the remnants of suspicion and misunderstanding, leaving behind only the quiet, heartfelt recognition of a friendship that war and time could never truly break. Luke knelt silently beside Scout, his hand slowly brushing through the dog's thick, comforting fur, a connection renewed after years of separation. His breathing deepened as memories surged forward, vivid moments of laughter under desert skies, quiet patrols beneath the relentless Iraqi sun, and devastating scenes of loss that he'd fought hard to bury. The past had found him once more, carried gently in the quiet warmth of Scout's steady heartbeat. Tears, quiet and unguarded, slipped slowly down Luke's rugged cheeks, betraying a vulnerability he rarely showed. Yet today, Luke made no effort to hide them. Scout, sensing the emotion, pressed his large head reassuringly into Luke's chest, a soft whimper echoing Luke's sorrowful breaths. The unspoken language of shared pain resonated clearly between man and dog, touching even the hardest hearts that had gathered around them. Emily Carter stood nearby, her professional composure softening further as she observed the powerful reunion unfolding before her eyes. She had seen much throughout her career with the FBI, yet nothing had prepared her for the quiet intensity of this moment. Beside Emily, Agent Ryan Mitchell remained respectfully quiet, the confusion in his eyes replaced now by deep empathy. Scout had always been his responsibility, yet he now realized the dog had long carried within him another loyalty, quietly waiting for the reunion that would finally set it free. A gentle murmur moved through the small crowd of Eagle River townspeople, who had gradually drawn closer, their former suspicion dissolving into quiet reverence. Margaret Jennings, eyes moist behind wire-rimmed glasses, took a soft step forward, compelled by a newfound understanding of Luke's silent burden. Sheriff Dan Walker, arms folded gently, his eyes compassionate, stood respectfully back. Recognizing a fellow protector haunted by the past he tried so hard to leave behind. In the gathered silence, Emily softly cleared her throat, stepping forward gently. "Luke," she spoke with quiet sincerity. "We had no idea Scout had a past like this." Luke glanced up, eyes reddened yet calm, nodding slightly, unable yet to speak. Emily knelt beside them both, allowing Scout to acknowledge her presence with a gentle nuzzle before she continued carefully. "Scout came to us through a military program after severe trauma," she explained softly, voice tinged with newfound respect. "We knew he'd survived something significant, but we never imagined it involved someone like you." Luke finally found his voice, the words low and quiet, yet filled with heartfelt gratitude. "I thought he was gone forever," he admitted softly, his eyes meeting Scout's deep, intelligent gaze. "But it seems fate had other plans." A moment of respectful silence passed, broken only by Scout's gentle breathing and the soft rustle of leaves whispering through the trees. Luke gently touched the collar around Scout's neck, noticing the small tag engraved with Scout's new identity. A quiet pang gripped him, knowing the name he'd known so intimately was now replaced, a symbol of all the years they'd lost. Ryan Mitchell observed quietly, stepping closer to Emily, his voice low and thoughtful as he spoke. "Scout has always had moments where he hesitated," Ryan admitted carefully, as if he were searching for something or someone. "Today, it finally makes sense." Luke lifted his eyes to meet Ryan's sincere gaze, offering a small nod of gratitude and understanding. The young agent, sensing Luke's deep connection with Scout, stepped back respectfully, signaling his acceptance of a bond he knew now was beyond mere training or orders. The gathered townspeople watched silently as the emotional weight of the reunion slowly eased, replaced by quiet contemplation. Margaret Jennings approached Luke carefully, extending a gentle hand that touched his shoulder reassuringly. "I'm sorry," she whispered softly, regret evident in her elderly voice. Luke glanced upward, offering her a quiet, understanding smile, acknowledging the unspoken forgiveness exchanged between them. As Emily gently rose from her kneeling position, she cast a soft glance around the group, her voice firm but gentle as she addressed the townspeople gathered. "This man is here to help find your missing child," she reminded quietly. "I think it's clear he's someone we can trust." Quiet murmurs of agreement rippled through the townspeople, trust slowly returning to their faces. Sheriff Walker stepped forward thoughtfully, offering Luke a quiet nod of renewed respect and acceptance. Eagle River, it seemed, was ready to embrace Luke Bennett not just as an outsider, but as one of their own. Luke stood slowly, Scout rising gently beside him, their bond once again complete, restored after years apart. Together, man and dog stood quietly united, ready now to face whatever challenges lay ahead, supported by the newfound trust of those around them. Luke realized then that healing was not something to be faced alone, but a quiet journey shared by companions both old and new. As the sun climbed high over Eagle River, casting gentle warmth across the gathering, Special Agent Emily Carter quietly took charge, initiating a deeper investigation into Luke Bennett's past. She and Ryan Mitchell stepped aside, discreetly contacting their FBI office to confirm Luke's identity and military records. Moments later, information flowed swiftly, quietly illuminating a past rich in honor and sacrifice that Luke himself had never openly shared. Luke stood silently beside Scout, gently running his fingers through the dog's fur, finding calmness in the comforting rhythm of his steady breaths. Scout sat obediently at Luke's feet, occasionally glancing up, eyes filled with quiet devotion. Nearby, Sheriff Dan Walker guided the townspeople gently, dispersing the small crowd that had gathered, his voice reassuring and patient, bringing calm back to Eagle River's usually quiet morning. Soon after, Emily approached Luke again, this time her eyes filled with newfound respect. She spoke softly, informing him that their inquiries had confirmed every detail of his military career. Luke Bennett, she explained gently, had been a respected Marine Corps officer with multiple commendations for bravery, leading numerous missions in Iraq and risking his own life to protect those under his command. She paused briefly, voice softer still, mentioning Scout's past by his side. Scout, who had been reported missing in action after an intense firefight, presumed lost forever beneath the smoke and dust of war. As Emily spoke, Margaret Jennings listened intently nearby, her heart deeply touched by the truth unfolding before her. Like many townspeople, Margaret's initial suspicion had transformed completely, replaced now by empathy and admiration for the quiet stranger whose past was marked not only by courage, but profound loss and loyalty. Her eyes welled gently with tears as Emily recounted Scout's extraordinary journey after his disappearance, detailing how the loyal German Shepherd had survived unimaginable hardship, eventually rescued by military personnel after months wandering the harsh Iraqi desert, injured but alive, resilient through sheer determination. Luke's gaze drifted toward Scout again, his heart swelling with quiet pride and deep sorrow, realizing fully for the first time what Scout must have endured alone, searching tirelessly, never giving up hope, yet surviving entirely on instinct and devotion to the bond they once shared. He gently knelt beside Scout once more, whispering softly, expressing his quiet gratitude and admiration for the strength that had carried Scout home, a strength he himself had often struggled to find. Word quickly spread throughout Eagle River, bringing forth townspeople who now approached Luke warmly, eager to express their heartfelt apologies and gratitude. Elderly citizens, families, even children came to offer soft words of appreciation, their eyes respectful, voices sincere, recognizing the quiet heroism Luke and Scout had shown, each enduring hardship silently, neither seeking recognition nor reward. Sheriff Walker, moved deeply by these revelations, shook Luke's hand warmly, quietly apologizing for his earlier doubts. "Our town owes you a debt of gratitude." Walker spoke genuinely, his voice quiet yet strong, eyes filled with sincere respect. Luke responded humbly, gratitude evident in his soft-spoken words, emphasizing that his intention had always been simply to help find the missing boy. Emily stood quietly to the side, observing thoughtfully, her professional demeanor now softened entirely by genuine admiration and respect. She understood, perhaps more than most, the invisible scars Luke carried, knowing too well the hidden burdens endured by those who faced war's cruelty firsthand. Throughout the gentle interactions, Scout remained close to Luke, quietly attentive, eyes calm, yet ever watchful, instinctively protective. Townspeople reached gently toward him, offering hesitant touches of kindness that Scout accepted warmly, his gentle temperament reassuring even the youngest among them. By midday, Eagle River seemed transformed, its citizens no longer fearful or suspicious, but deeply unified by compassion, understanding, and respect for Luke and Scout. The quiet stories of courage and perseverance had woven themselves seamlessly into the town's heart, creating bonds stronger than any initial fear or mistrust. As Luke stood quietly beside Scout, breathing deeply the fresh air that carried hints of lake water and distant pines, he felt a quiet sense of peace and acceptance that had long eluded him. The past had found its voice at last, no longer a haunting whisper, but a gentle reminder of courage, loyalty, and enduring love. Luke realized fully then that his journey here was not merely about solving a case, but reclaiming fragments of himself that war had stolen away, fragments now gently returned through Scout's unwavering presence and the quiet compassion of Eagle River. The townspeople lingered softly around them, the atmosphere serene and heartfelt, offering quiet acknowledgement of truths revealed, of sacrifices honored, and of healing finally begun, guided gently by the silent devotion between a man and the loyal dog who had waited patiently through time and distance to find his way back home. The tranquil town of Eagle River had settled into a quiet understanding, its citizens carrying within their hearts the emotional revelation they had witnessed. Yet, amidst this newfound harmony, Special Agent Emily Carter received troubling news from headquarters. The military had decided that Scout, the remarkable German shepherd whose courage and resilience had touched everyone, should return immediately to active service. The news quickly spread, stirring a gentle unrest in the hearts of those who now deeply respected the bond between Luke Bennett and Scout. When Emily shared the decision with Luke, her voice was heavy, layered with sincere regret. Luke absorbed the words silently, an ache forming in his chest, realizing how fragile their newly restored companionship truly was. But before Luke could respond, Sheriff Dan Walker stepped forward, determination clear in his steady gaze. The sheriff, an unwavering protector of his community, quietly announced that Eagle River would not allow this separation without voicing their hearts clearly. Margaret Jennings, deeply moved by Scout's resilience, reached out to her grandson, Alex Jennings, a local journalist in his late 20s. Alex was lean, thoughtful, with short sandy hair, and known for his compassionate yet determined reporting. When Alex heard his grandmother's request, he quickly understood the urgency, quietly promising her that Scout and Luke's story would reach beyond their small town's boundaries. Within hours, Alex had written and shared the remarkable journey of Luke and Scout online. The story resonated deeply, spreading rapidly across social media platforms, television stations, and radio channels nationwide. People from all corners of America expressed their support, urging the authorities to allow Scout the peaceful retirement he truly deserved, alongside Luke, the man he had risked everything for. Emily watched as public support blossomed into a gentle yet powerful force, moved by the sheer scale of compassion pouring forth from strangers who'd never met Scout or Luke but felt deeply connected through their story. The pressure, growing quietly yet irresistibly, finally reached the decision-makers in the military. After thoughtful consideration and a rare moment of compassionate clarity, military officials agreed that Scout had already given more than enough and deserved to spend his remaining days in peace. Luke received the news in quiet disbelief at first, a gentle wave of relief spreading warmly through his heart, tears of gratitude silently filling his eyes. Scout, sensing the emotion of his companion, pressed softly against Luke's leg, his quiet presence offering unwavering support and reassurance. With the blessing of both FBI and military officials, Luke and Scout prepared quietly for their journey home to Hayward, Wisconsin. Eagle River residents gathered warmly at the town's square on a clear, crisp morning to see them off. Margaret stood among them, her eyes soft with emotion, holding tightly to Alex's arm, proud of how he had helped their small town's voice reach so far. Sheriff Walker gave Luke a warm handshake, quietly thanking him once again for everything he'd done. Emily and Ryan stood together, their professional demeanor softened entirely by genuine happiness for Luke and Scout's reunion. On their way home, Luke drove slowly, windows slightly open, the gentle wind filling the car with scents of pine and autumn leaves. Scout rested quietly in the passenger seat, occasionally glancing at Luke with gentle eyes filled with trust and quiet joy. Luke found himself smiling softly, heart lighter than it had felt in years, knowing he was bringing Scout home at last, the loyal friend who had never truly given up on him. When they arrived in Hayward, the community welcomed them warmly, lining the main street with gentle applause, friendly waves, and sincere smiles. Neighbors, families, and fellow veterans stood side by side, quietly acknowledging the deep sacrifice both man and dog had made. At the end of the welcoming crowd stood Luke's closest friend, Jim Andrews, a retired Marine in his early 50s, tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair and eyes warm with understanding. Jim offered Luke a firm embrace, quietly whispering heartfelt words of welcome home, and softly patted Scout, expressing gratitude for the dog's unwavering loyalty. In the quiet comfort of his Hayward home that evening, Luke sat beside Scout on the porch, watching the sun dip gently beneath the horizon. The quiet hum of nature surrounded them, soothing and peaceful. Luke gently rested his hand on Scout's neck, feeling the reassuring beat of the dog's strong heart, and whispered a quiet promise that they would face whatever the future held together, forever bonded by loyalty, courage, and love. As darkness slowly blanketed the peaceful Wisconsin town, Luke closed his eyes briefly, feeling deeply thankful. Scout lay contentedly at his feet, quietly breathing the familiar air of home, finally at peace. Their journey had been long and painful, but through the quiet strength of their friendship, they had both found the healing they needed most. For Luke and Scout, the road home had finally ended in quiet triumph and gentle peace, their bond stronger now than ever before. In life, loyalty and love often speak loudest in quiet moments, through gentle sacrifices made without words or applause. Sometimes, our greatest heroes walk quietly beside us, their hearts unwavering in devotion. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the quiet strength found in friendship, take a moment to join us, subscribe, and be part of our journey as we continue to share stories of hope, healing, and quiet courage together.